Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone who seems confident and wondered why your own confidence feels like it has a slow leak? You wake up, you try to get through the day, and one small comment or comparison is enough to make you second guess your worth. Most people think insecurity is a personal weakness. No, it is not. It is a learned pattern. And the danger is that it hides in plain sight. You carry it into rooms where no one is looking at you, into conversations where no one is judging you, and into opportunities that you talk yourself out of. For many people in our generation or world today, insecurity started long before we knew the word. Some of us grew up with conditional praise from our parents. Some of us learned to measure our value through social comparison. Some of us went through experiences that taught the brain to expect rejection or failure, even when the environment is safe. This is the same result. You either hold yourself back or you overcompensate. You silence your idea at work. You avoid certain places because your body is not good enough. You cling too tightly in relationships or keep people at a distance, and you don't know why the pattern feels stronger than your logic. You should stay in this episode because I will break down the real psychological drivers behind insecurity in such a way that is simple and easy to understand and recognize in your own life. You will see why your mind reacts the way it does and why it feels automatic and why you have more control than you think. I will also walk you through a clear framework you can use to separate who you are from what you fear and how to convert the emotional energy behind insecurity into something that helps you instead of holding you back. By the end of this conversation, you will not only understand the roots of your insecurity, you will know what to do with it. And in case you don't know, this is the Morning Gear with Danny, and I am Danny, your Gen Z educator. I'm here to transform your identity by refining your mentality. Let's get into it. Hey, refined one, welcome back to the Morning Get podcast, and I'm saying a big welcome to my new and existing listeners. Happy new month, and this is in celebration that we made it to the last month of the year 2025. It is such a blessing. It is such a pleasure. So, before I diving into today's topic, the reason why I'm talking about insecurity today is because, within the week, I stumbled upon my journal. I haven't journaled in quite a while now, and I was just going through my journal and I saw that I actually wrote about this topic with an intention to talk about it on the podcast, but then I have not been able to do that. And reading through that brought me back memories, and one of which is my own insecurity, which I'm going to let you know in a few minutes' time. So I decided to make an extensive research on the topic and bring it to you today. So, growing up during birth, I was born and I sustained an injury. Called shoulder dystocia, which resulted in Erb's palsy. So, in a normal layman terms, shoulder dystocia is just an injury that affects your nerve cells on your arm. it's a dislocation on your shoulder that affects your nerve cells and every and other things in your arm. I don't know the whole scientific jargon, right? So this shoulder dystocia injury resulted in Erb's palsy, and it has certain effects, which includes my arm having a limited mobility, arm shortening, so it's reduced my arm length, and muscle formation and some other things. But then it was not noticed till I grew up. I started growing. Currently I'm about 6'1", 6'2" so this is why I was able to even notice. This is what made this condition very, very prominent, and it has been a major insecurity for me because it looks weird. It's not normal. I walk in the road and people look at me. In fact, I hate wearing short sleeves because when I do, a lot of people are staring longer than they should stare. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me want to come out of my own skin. I'm not comfortable in my own skin, in my own body. And it has been a major problem for me. But then I would say within the past few weeks, I've been working on myself, so to speak, and I've been able to attain a certain level of self-acceptance, which was not there before. So I can confidently work out and rock my short sleeve, and I do not care anymore, right? This is because of a mentality or a mindset shift, which I will introduce you. One of the 6 framework of the mindset shift, especially the last one in particular, that was the one I applied, and I shifted the whole game for me. But then, we've all been hearing insecurity. What actually is an insecurity? Well, for me, in my own terms, I would say insecurity is a feeling or something about ourselves that we don't like. It's just something or a feeling or something about ourselves that we don't like that results in a feeling of not being good enough, not being sufficient enough, and all that thing. But I'm going to give you a more standard definition. So the most common and accepted psychological definition of insecurity, particularly in a psychological and emotional context, generally agreed upon by psychological and dictionary bodies, defines insecurities as a sense of inadequacy meaning a sense of not feeling good enough, insufficient, a sense of failing to meet a particular standard or requirement, that feeling that you are not qualified or incapable. So that's what insecurity is. It says insecurity as a sense of inadequacy in one or more areas of your life, a lack of self-confidence and difficulty coping with uncertainty, change, or potential failure / rejection. And this definition is from the American Psychological Association. But in a more concise style, it is a feeling of lacking confidence and not being sure of one's own abilities or if whether people like one. So it comes in 2 forms. 1, you lack confidence in yourself, and 3 can also shows in you not knowing or you contemplating or you being particular whether somebody likes you or not. But then during the course of everything, I began to wonder, where does insecurity actually come from? Do you know? Let's talk, because it is so weird that insecurity is a particular thing or problem or issue that everybody actually faces at some point in their life. And it is not widely talked about. It is not widely spoken on. So I began to wonder, which led me to do a deep research. Where does insecurity come from? I'll tell you. Insecurities primarily come from the gap between the idealized self we are told we should be and the reality of who we are. I'll come again. Insecurities primarily come from a gap between the idealized, when they say idealized, they lay down the normal, let's put it that way, the normal self we are told we should be and the reality of who we are. The origins are complex, but generally started here. Early programming. So the subconscious mind absorbs messages from primary caregivers, your teachers, your parents, and early media about what makes a person valuable subconsciously. So while you grow up, your mind absorbs messages from primary caregivers like your parents, your school teachers, your teachers in church, from the media, things you watch about what it makes a person valuable. So you just grow up now, they have started conforming you. So e.g., beauty, performance, compliance, etc. And if these messages were overly critical or conditional, the foundation of self-worth is weak. Another place insecurity is originated from is unmet needs. According to Maslow's hierarchy, if safety, that's a stable environment, or belonging needs were chronically unmet, the individual brain remains on high alert, always seeking validation that they are good enough to stay safe and accepted. So that's another way insecurity is generated. Unmet needs. Maybe your parents are the kind of people that go out every time, or they're not always there to talk to you. You don't have anybody to talk to, and suddenly when you find that person, you want to hold on tight. You don't want to leave that person. You feel insecure. Oh, this person might leave me anytime soon. No, you cannot go anywhere. Those are insecurities. Another way, which is like a major place or region of insecurity, is cultural and societal standards. And I hate the society for this, so to speak. I hate societal conformity. Who is the society? Why would they conform you and you blindly follow? I'll talk about something after this. We are constantly measured against an ever-shifting external yardstick, e.g. media images, financial success metrics, body ideas, etc. Insecurity is often the result of failing to meet unrealistic expectations or collective expectations. I don't know if any of you heard this, but there's a story trending of a lady who went to go and do tummy talk. Because of what? At 21, you're doing tummy talk. And then the implications that came after it. And I'm sure if you were going to go and question this lady, you understand that the major reason she did this was because of societal conditioning, societal construct. As a lady, you are supposed to have figure 8. As a lady, you are supposed to have big hips, big breasts, a moderate forehead, plumpy lips. You're supposed to be tall, slim. These are societal conformity. Who defined your beauty? Who defined? For guys, you must have muscular body. You must have 6 packs. You must be tall, probably fair or caramel with pink lips and have money and big dick and sort of the nonsense they talk about, and you are there accepting. Who defined your beauty? We are coming to that. So there are major drivers of insecurities. The major driver of insecurity are fundamentally rooted in attachment theory, cognitive psychology, and social learning theory. And they all led to a core belief: I am not worthy or safe unless I meet an external condition. So that is the core belief of any insecurity. So one of the major psychological or scientific driver of insecurity is conditional love attachment theory. Insecure attachment styles arise when a primary caregiver's love and attention were inconsistent or dependent on the child's behavior. Do you get? So this is how insecurities actually started. When a primary caregiver's love and attention were inconsistent or dependent on the child's behavior. So if you are good, you get love. If you are bad, you don't get love. You take first position, a kitchen for you. You take last, a wogie. So you feel you start your life with a zero balance. Every achievement, compliment, or good deed is a small deposit. Every mistake is a withdrawal. You constantly fear bankruptcy. That is rejection. So you want to be accepted. You want to be accepted. You don't feel enough by yourself. You need somebody to tell you are enough. You need that love. Conditional love. Another way this can show is social comparison theory. Humans have an innate drive to evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. Innate though, that means it is inborn, like it's in you. And this process is exacerbated by upward social comparison. Compare yourself to those who seem better. Why not compare yourself to those who you know you are better than? Especially on social media, people go and compare themselves to people you don't know. Do you know what they are going through? Do you know what is behind the camera? Do you know their health condition? Yet you compare. Social media and curated images are like a funhouse mirror that only reflects the very best angle of everyone else, making your normal, flawed self look distorted and inferior by comparison. Spending hours on Instagram looking at models or peers' successful careers and concluding, I'm not successful, I'm not beautiful enough, despite you having a good life. That's insecurity. It shows in different ways, different forms. There's also the learned helplessness, repeatedly exposed to negative events over which a person had no control. So when you are repeatedly exposed to negative events which you have no control over them, it can lead you to believe that you are fundamentally powerless even when you later have control over it. Do you get? So you were shocked repeatedly as a child when you tried to cross a line, metaphorically. Even after the power is turned off, you still fear and avoid crossing that line because your brain is trained to expect pain. Another to avoid seeking a promotion because they experience chronic severe criticism from a boss early in their career, even though their current workspace is supportive. So there are major forms and types of insecurities, which I am telling you that if you want to even to break free from this insecurity trap, you must understand the forms and types of it. How did they show? What color did they come in? What brand did they come in? And this is what I'm going to tell you now. Insecurities often cluster around specific ideas of life, and they are displayed through defensive behaviors or avoidance. One, body appearance insecurity. I call this the visible insecurity, or visible/invisible, because some insecurity which involves body appearance might be visible, while others might be invisible unless you are naked. Yeah. So, feeling dissatisfied, self-conscious, or inadequate about one's physical appearance, weight, or height, or any specific feature. And this is displayed in certain ways. Number one, avoidance. Refusing to take photos. Like me, I hardly take full body pictures. I only take selfies. So it is a display of my own insecurity because of my body. Some people display their own by wearing oversized concealing clothes, avoiding mirrors, or swimming. In fact, I don't think I even swim of recent because how do I look in your face? You get? That's an insecurity. Other people can display true fixation, excessively grooming, dieting, working out, or even spending money on clothes, cosmetic, to fix the perceived flaw. And the thing with this thing is that they're not fixing it for themselves. No matter the shenanigans or the yada they will tell you about, they're fixing it for people, the way people view them. And that is my problem. So example, a person who constantly checks their reflection and refuses to attend a pool party because their body isn't good enough. The person doesn't see a flaw in their reflection. They see a flaw in the mirror. That is their self-perception. And no amount of fixing the reflected image will fix the internal distorted lens. 2. Social insecurity. Fear of social judgment, criticism, rejection, exclusion, the feeling of not belonging or of not knowing how to act in a group. This is closely related to social anxiety. Avoidance. Turning down invitations, avoiding eye contact. This is how they display it. They turn down invitations, they avoid eye contact, being extremely quiet in groups, or constantly checking the phone during social events, or they do overcompensation. They talk too much, telling exaggerated stories or lie, being overly aggressive or boastful to try and control the narrative. Relatable example is maybe someone who has a great idea in a meeting but remains silent, convinced that your colleagues will think that his or their idea is very stupid. Another example or form is the professional performance insecurity. So doubt about one's competence, intelligence, skills, or professional potential. This often leads to the imposter syndrome. So having imposter syndrome is a form of insecurity. The feeling that one's success is underdeserved or undeserved, and one will soon be exposed as a fraud. Some people display it with self-sabotaging. So procrastinating on major events, turning down promotions, or avoiding challenging assignments, or they do it by overworking, perfectionism, obsessively checking work, or constantly seeking external reassurance or praise from maybe their supervisor or their boss, etc. For example, a highly skilled executive who attributes a major successful project to luck and immediately begin to worry about the next one because he is terrified of failure. There's also the relationship insecurity, fear of abandonment, low self-worth with a partnership, and constant worry that your partner will lose interest or leave. And this is often linked to the anxious attachment style. Anxious attachment style. How do you display this? They display this with clinginess. So people that you think, I'm just clingy, is a lie. It's a lie. You're not just clingy. They text excessively, being constant reassurance, ask questions like, do you still love me? And becoming irrationally jealous of friends or co-workers. Or then they test, creating arguments to drama to test their partner's commitment, or constantly monitoring their partner's social media account because they are insecure. Someone who has a panic attack if their partner does not reply to a text within the next 30 minutes. And they just immediately assume that silence means they are being cheated on or abandoned. That is an insecurity. So let me give an analogy. It's like this person is an empty bucket seeking to be filled up with their partner's love. But because the bucket has a hole, which is their low self-worth, the love is constantly being drained out, requiring endless filling or refilling. And these are the major ways people see insecurities. These are the major forms of insecurities. But then, do you know that for each and every insecurity that is not handled, there is a major consequence in the future? It results to a whole lot of things. And it's important that you know this, and that will be your major driving force to work under your insecurity, because it always has consequences. Like that girl now. We see the consequences of insecurity. See what he resorted to. At 21, has she given birth completely? No, she hasn't. But then see her stomach, God. So it is essential that you also understand that for every insecurity, there is a consequence. And I'm going to let you know what these consequences are. Consequences of not dealing with insecurities, leaving them unchecked, is dangerous. Insecurity does not simply remain a feeling. It becomes a core driver of maladaptive behaviors that significantly harms one's life, relationship, and mental health. So, major consequences involves self-sabotaging. So avoiding opportunities, jobs, dates because of the fear of failure, thus creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where the person confirms that their belief that they are unworthy is true. It can also be linked back to confirmation biases. So you self-sabotage yourself because you feel that you are not enough, you're unworthy to go for that opportunity, for that date. These are consequences. And this keeps you limited. This keeps you what? Limited. 2, toxic relationship insecurities. So it drives a person to either cling or push away, primitively rejecting to avoid being rejected. Toxic relationship insecurity. It drives a person to either cling, that is the anxious attachment, demanding constant reassurance, or push away, that's the avoidant attachment, primitively rejecting to avoid being rejected. So you are rejecting to avoid being rejected, or you demand constant reassurance because you don't want to be pushed away. This is also consequences of insecurities being not taken care of. 3, this is the most important I would want to talk about today. A perverted or compulsive sexual preference. Yes. Unsolved deep-seated insecurity can contribute to the development of certain perverted or compulsive sexual behaviors, that's paraphilias. If a person feels powerless, insignificant, or unworthy in their everyday life, they may seek sexual experiences that involve power or control, engaging in activities where they feel entirely in control or dominant to compensate for the feeling out of control in their life, or objectification, seeking partners who objectify them, as this aligns with their core belief that they are not worthy of genuine emotional connection and only surface level attention. That's why you see people that will say, I don't like men that are soft-hearted. I like my men to beat me. There's a inner drive to that. See, compulsive seeking, using sex, pornography, or risky behavior as a form of intense temporary validation or self-soothing to distract from the chronic pain of low self-worth. Mental health disorders. Some people, it also results in the feeling of wanting to be made or humiliated. People want to feel, people who now their sexual preference is being humiliated. Most of the times is because of insecurities. Yeah, there are some people like that. They want to be humiliated. They want to be made. They want to be made to feel less than they actually are, and that is a sexual preference. So this is mostly as a result of their insecurities. But now, I'm giving you a 6-step unconventional mindset framework to overcome insecurities. And this framework focuses on actionable reframing based on modern concepts like radical self-acceptance, embodied cognition, and exposure therapy. Step 1, the identity divorce. So the mindset shift here is that you need to separate your condition from your identity. That's for the body. Your insecurity is not who you are. It is a topic or a problem you have to manage. You can take the action today. Write the following sentence down 3 times. Fill in the blanks. You can say, I have, then write out the insecurity or condition. Then you now write, but I'm not. Then write out the insecurity or condition. For example, I have Erb's palsy, but I am not my disability. I don't even call it a disability because it's not. I have a fear of being judged, but I'm not a failure. So, to give a deep analogy of what this thing is, you should understand that you can own the car now, but you are not the car. If the car breaks down, your value as a person still remains intact. So that your insecurity should not be your definition, should not define you. You get? So you need to understand that your insecurity is not who you are, but it's something you need to manage. 2, embrace the vulnerability tax. Mindset shift. Acknowledge that imperfection is the cost of entry for human being or for being human. Imperfection is the cost of entry for being human. Stop seeking zero risk. Accept that vulnerability, the risk of judgment or rejection, is the tax you have to pay to live a full life. So you accept that you need to be vulnerable to live a full life. That vulnerability is the tax you pay for living a full, complete life. So one thing you can do today is deliberately do one thing today that you've been avoiding because of an insecure thought. But start small. Body insecurity, e.g. small dick or something like that, or big tummy or fat. Wear snug-fitting clothes or wear loose-fitting clothes one day and actively stop yourself from adjusting looking at the mirror too much. And you can constantly look at the mirror and tell yourself that you are enough. If you even have to look at the mirror, you are enough, you are good looking, you are beautiful, you are handsome. It works. Believe me, it does. So, social insecurity, raise your hand to ask questions. If that's your insecurity, social insecurity, raise your hand to ask questions. Even if your voice is slightly shaky. Your life is a club with a high cover charge. Insecurity wants you to wait outside until the charge is waived. But now the mindset is you pay the charge, you get in, and you start dancing. So that is the mindset I want you to have. 3, competence and not confidence. competence, not confidence. Confidence is the side effect of competence. It is not the starting point. Stop waiting to feel confident. Start doing small, concrete things to build competence. The action creates the feeling. So for professional skill or skill-based insecurity, you could dedicate 15 minutes to deliberate, focused practice on the skill you adapt. Example, if you fear presenting, practice the first 60 seconds of your next presentation alone until you do it flawlessly. You will not feel confident about the whole thing, but you feel competent about the start. You don't feel confident driving a car the first time you sit in it, or you become competent by practicing steering and braking, and the confidence will now appear. So the more you engage in doing that thing, the more your confidence is built up. The step 4, the 10-10-10 rule for rumination. Insecurities thrive on rumination. That's the endless cyclical worrying. The endless cyclical worrying. Use a structured filter to break that cycle. Actionable step. When a strong insecurity or insecure thought pops up, example, I look ridiculous in this outfit, right? I want you to look at yourself and ask these 3 questions. Will this matter in the next 10 minutes? Will this matter in the next 10 months? Will this matter in the next 10 years? See, this rule is acting as a temporary magnifier. It instantly shrinks the perceived size of the current worry by placing it on a much larger context, revealing that most insecurities have a shelf life of about 10 minutes. Yes. So whenever you look at the body and say that these facts really matter, it doesn't. Step 5, the so what drill. Mindset shift. Desensitize yourself to the worst case scenario. Instead of avoiding the thought of rejection and failure, deliberately embrace it and accept it. Identify your deepest insecurity, e.g., your coworkers will think you are stupid. Now follow up with that. And instead of saying your coworkers will think you're stupid, think like this. And so what? What if they do think, and what then will happen? Sort of saying, I don't want to ask this question, I will sound stupid. Why not think I'm going to ask a question today and I will sound stupid? And then what? My coworkers might smirk or laugh. And so what? I'll feel embarrassed for a minute. And then what? The meeting will move on. And so what? I'll still have my job, my home, my life, my friends, my everything. This is a psychological fire drill. You practice the escape route, what you do after the worst happens. So when the next fire alarm, that insecure thought, rings, you already know the building won't burn down. Number 6, which is like my best, reroute the fuel. The alchemist soul. Treat the painful energy of insecurity as a raw, intense fuel, but change the engine that uses it. Stop using it to run the shame engine, trying to prove people wrong, and start using it to run the purpose engine, improving your self-growth. The next time you feel a spike of insecurity, example, after an internal critique, acknowledge the energy spike. Immediately channel that restless energy into a disciplined action that serves your core values and not your ego. Example, instead of scrolling through social media for validation, use the nervous system to clean your workspace and read one chapter of a book related to your future goal. You are an alchemist. The negative emotion of insecurity, that's the lead, has a lot of energy, and your job is to convert that high intensity lead into a good sustainable effort that serves your future and not your past. Your insecurity should be your motivation. But then it has a side effect. If it is your major motivation and is only motivating you to go and do something, what if you not do that thing? It will come back again. So not just seeing it as a motivation, but seeing it as a reason to thrive, but seeing it as a reason to rechannel that energy as a part of your existence, rather. As part of your existence, right? Live above the stereotype. Live above the stereotype. You are worth more. You are beautiful. You are intelligent. You are smart. You are creative. You matter just the way you are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There is beauty in diversity. And it is what gives life beauty, color, tune, everything. Your insecurity, you don't have flat tummy. You don't have big boobs. You don't have big butts. You don't have a good jawline. You don't have dimples. You don't have pink lips. It should be your unique difference. In fact, it should be called unique differences, not insecurities. So this should be your motivation to stand out from the crowd and succeed, and not a reason to question God's creation. This is not a reason to question God's creation. So looking back, you've been able to cover the definition of insecurity, where it comes from, the major forms, the consequences, and the unconventional system frameworks of insecurities. My final take or thoughts on this is that, yes, your insecurity is valid. But like I said, you own a car. That car is like your insecurity, right? It is part of you, but it is not you. But it is your duty to manage that car. It is your duty to manage that insecurity. It is your duty to fuel it. It is your duty to use it for a better use. So turn that insecurity into your own for. Turn that insecurity into a reason to thrive. Yeah. So I hope this podcast spoke to you in any way. And if it did, I want you to share this on your story, on your Instagram story, on WhatsApp status, whatever. Invite someone to listen, rate the podcast, subscribe to the channel, or follow the podcast wherever you listen on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcast. And yeah, take one tiny step today on that insecurity, and take that tiny step to make sure that your insecurity is not going to work against you. Like I always say, your struggles don't define you. Your mentality, it transforms you. And I'm here just to inspire you. And I hope I did. Peace.